did. And I know that we all destined for greatness, no matter what you've been facing. It's a marathon, no, it's not a sprint. It's for all of the trials and tribulations. Just look at my mom made it. I said I was gonna change it, I did. And I know that we all destined for greatness, no matter what you've been facing. It's a marathon, no, it's not a sprint. Trying to change for the better, all my city difference. From the mamas to the children, every one of us is gifted.
Good morning, the back community. Thank you, as always, for staying involved. Thank you for staying engaged. Welcome back, season 6, expanding your range on the back community show. Today's guest is a longtime friend of mine, a person who I admire and look up to very much, even though I trash talk him almost every other day. But a person that I wanted to bring onto the show because he has an extensive collection of work that he does, all things wood related, as he likes to call it, functional art. But I've seen some of the pieces that he's done for places that promote different businesses, and what he's doing in the schools currently is amazing work. And he happens to be my frat brother as well. We both went to Johnson C. Smith together down
Chapter
in
brother, man.
Charlotte,
You got to
North
specify
Carolina.
chapter brother, man.
That's my chapter brother. Sometimes I don't claim him though, depending on where we're at. But without further ado, guys, I'm gonna actually formally introduce you to today's guest on the back community, my friend EJ Chapman. EJ, I really want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to highlight and spotlight you today, and I look forward to diving into your story, bro.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me, man. Happy to be here and talk to you in a quasi professional setting. So
Cool, cool. Well, let me see, man. I'm gonna get right to it because I see you got the E2 Solutions logo on. So
yeah,
all
man.
things E2 Solutions. I tried my best to introduce everybody on the show, but nobody can introduce you how you can introduce yourself. So if you can, first question for you is, please tell the Back Community Podcast who you are, and what kind of work that you do. Here's
Yeah,
your
man.
opportunity to tell everybody about yourself.
Oh man, well, first and foremost, a child of God, man, a son, a husband, a father, well, friend to some people, frat brother, others. Um, yeah, man, but in this season, man, where I'm finding myself, I'm finding myself leaning more into in terms of my profession, leaning more into a role of an artist, right? So an entrepreneurship space, but really kind of stepping more into being kind of artistry, as well as one person, as how one person sort of introduced me one time as a maker, and a maker of
Mm,
a variety of different things. And so as you mentioned, I have a woodworking company that I sort of I've envisioned, and I define it more as a functional art company. And so folks ask, well, what does that mean? It's like, so you may want a chair, but I can make it artistic, yet it'll be functional, or a table. And so really leaning more into that. I have a company, it's called E2 Creations, which I began back formally as an LLC, began back in 2018. Have had the opportunity to work on a number of different projects for private customers as well as businesses, which has been awesome. And then recently, back in February, you mentioned the sort of my the solution side of things, where I've sort of expanded my business to include some logistics and delivery, and really kind of a designing, building, and logistics portion of my company, which I've done under a branch of which is Chapman Solutions.
okay, okay. Now I gotta ask. Now, was this something in terms of creating functional art? Was this something you went to school for? Was this something that you ended up picking up as a hobby later on in life? What was it about woodwork or functional art? What got you involved into doing functional art, or was this something that you actually went to school for?
Yeah, and that's a great question, man. I shout out to my dad, man. When I was in high school, um, and I was kind of at the age to where I could get my first job. He had gone down the street from my house, and there was a shopping center and had a frame shop, an art gallery, but it was a frame shop. He had got an application. I guess he had talked to the owner, and I started off at framing pictures. And so I went there and I would cut this molding down, the frame down, and glass and mesh, and I would sort of create these pieces. Um, And over time, my boss would say, "Hey, EJ, I want you to, patch and paint this wall. I want you to put this together. I want you to cut these pieces down and kind of, here's a piece of artwork. What kind of mats would you put with it? How would you design it? What would you do?" And so I worked in that field, if you will, for probably better about 20 years or so. And then went to and while I was in school, and so I went to school at John C. Smith, and where I got my degree in criminal justice and sociology, so 2 degrees there. Then went to graduate school, Michigan State, where I got a master's in criminal justice. um, Came home, worked and did community work and violence intervention work in DC. And then my last sort of stint in DC, I was over substance use prevention and youth treatment and recovery. um that was kind of my primary thing, but still, kind of I would, have these projects. And really for me, I think the woodworking, really kind of being in a maker space, was an artistic vehicle. I remember being younger and interested in art. I always had an interest in art. But the friends I had were like, I mean, they could like almost draw for comic books, and I was drawing stick figures,
Mm.
right? So like, so it was kind of more of an appreciation thing. And so being able to um make things, out of wood and other materials, it really gave me that outlet for expression, that artistic kind of that thing that was sort of churning on the inside. Um, and just kind of fast forward and kind of narrowing into kind of how I sort of, really got into it. When my wife and I were pregnant with our son, I said, I'm gonna make something to go on his wall, and I kind of made something, and
Mm.
made a few other pieces. And um, and then two things kind of happened. I was talking to my therapist one time, and she said that I had inattentive ADD. And I was like, I said, well, what? Like, you just
Mm.
diagnosed me like mid conversation. And she's like, sometimes folks who are, are you artistic? I said, yeah, I'm artistic. And she said, so for sometimes folks who have inattentive ADD, so it's not that they are hyperactive, but they kind of zone out. And so they zone out. They may be
Mm.
thinking about these artistic things. I was like, man, it's kind of interesting. So, I really, so I kind of prayed about it, and, kind of went back and forth, and, kind of took that. And then, a few, probably 2 or 3 months later, say, let me just post some stuff on my Instagram page, kind of see what happens. And man, I had, a good buddy of my homegirl, Angel, owns a Spice Suite, man. Like, as soon as I post something, she reached out, man, hey, I want you to make something. I'm like, all right, yeah, what you want me to make? She's like, I don't know, just make anything. And and man, I really appreciate just kind of these people and kind of pivotal points, because I mean, I made something for her. I mean, she posted it, she gave me some pointers like, you need to have your own separate IG page. And it really kind of took off from there, man, in terms of like being able to, do different pieces. And so in terms of kind of, once again, fast forwarding, um, she and other people say, hey, can you make this? And before I had a chance to respond, she's like, yeah, you can make it. And then we're like, just trust, entrusted me to like make this stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea even where to begin. Um, but through figuring out, man, and trial and error, man, got into it, man, and fast forward to, kind of the final fast forward, if you will. I ended up leaving DC, went to took a senior executive role in Baltimore. That didn't work out, and so it's kind of a little forced out thing, but that forced me to kind of really revamp and re-envision kind of what I was doing for my company. And so that's where I am today, man. And God has been faithful, man, been creating just some really cool opportunities. And so I'm excited today to talk about that expansion piece, and kind of, what it means to go beyond it just being a hobby, or going beyond just kind of something I was, doing to make side money.
Listen, you've said so much that I want to dive into. One, shout out to Angel. Tell us more about that project, because I remember when you did the Spice Suite joint. But I think that you've also been a part of a larger project that she ended up creating as well, if I'm not mistaken. And To be a hub and to be connected to that, and to have your work displayed in the front of this
Yeah,
conglomerate is the word I want to put out there, but I'm sure that's not it. But uh, business hub for all of
yeah,
these different businesses.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that experience that you had there with Angel, and what it was like to have your work on full display for everybody to come in and see this amazing work.
Yeah, man. No, she's man, I appreciate that question, Max. I really try to really, look for opportunity to shout her out, Max. And I say it, a lot of times folks say, man, I really appreciate you, man, and thank you, man. But but I really, I really do, man, just because, she kind of used her platform. And I mean, and not just me. I mean, I think it's just sort
Yep.
of the spirit of what she does. And so the first I had made something for my house, so she kind of just went through my page and kind of saw something. Said, well, won't you make one of these for me? I said, okay. I said, well, if you want to use this as a backdrop for your sign, like, in my mind, I said, well, maybe I can just recreate your sign. And so I went and bought the tools and sat down and spent a couple of weeks. Kind of figuring that piece out and really just, I mean, for me, I mean, kind of took off from there in terms of like really pushing myself and saying, okay, I mean, if you did this, then, how would you do it differently next time? Or, how can you make it more efficient? How can you make it, a little better? Um, and she's really, I mean, one of those people, I mean, she would say, hey, her next project was like, hey, Eric, can you make some barn doors? Yes, you can make them. I'm like, and I have no idea where to begin, and I'm like, yeah, sure, Mister, I can do all those things. Um, and so just, I mean, literally, like, little projects like that just really an opportunity to kind of test those sort of maker wings, if you will, right? In terms of like, um, kind of what you're doing and figuring out. And I would add kind of the grace and mercy along with like when you make mistakes, right?
Okay.
Because you definitely will make mistakes. I had another guy who I've made a mentor say, he said, you always will make mistakes, right? And so the artistry and the mastery is really figuring out how do you cover it up so that the customer doesn't know. So
Yep.
not to deceive anybody, right? But how do you clean it up, right? How do you fix this thing? So that you can, put forth your best effort and put forth, present your best product. And I mean, I really, that's something that I carry with me on every project because on every project you hit a wall, right? Like,
Yep.
I kind of ask myself, why, I don't know if I can say hell on here, but why the hell am
Oh,
I?
absolutely.
Um, and so that's, I mean, that's literally every single project, 100 projects later, I'm like, what am I doing?
Mm.
Um, and so two kind of big projects I was able to do in working with Angel was she she wanted these letters. She wanted letters. She was like, hey, she probably sent me like an IG message like 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was like, hey, I got this idea. I want these letters. Do it. And I'm like, cool. And so I'm like, well, where you want to put it? She's like, I'm gonna put it inside. So I'm like, well, I took it upon myself to say, well, I can make him huge if you want him. I can maximize the material and just, and ended up making them too big to go inside, which kind of worked out. So they ended up sitting outside. Um, and it was really, I mean, it was just this crazy, these 4 foot high letters, 4 feet high, 2 feet wide, a depth of like a foot and a half that like I'm like lugging throughout the house and taking up the whole basement, man. But really just a phenomenal opportunity. So folks who came to this, ended up being a strip mall.
Yep.
Um, according to the district's definition of a strip mall is, I mean, once again, and because she was committed to like bringing in different businesses and different stuff. I mean, it just kind of, just increases the exposure, sort of cross pollination of, exposure. And then like literally like every project that she's had, man, she'll find something for me to do, even though there's like other people who can do it, right? And so with her most recent piece and open up the something sweet, she's like, hey, yeah, I need you to make some bar stools. I'm like, what? Well, I don't know, I make bar stools, but like, yeah, but I'll do it.
Yep.
But like that, man, and it's really through those pieces, like, I mean, I come up with something like the product, the end product, like, I take a lot of pride in
Mhm.
because it's really pushed me and it's really stretched me to like do something that like I'd never envisioned, right? Like I never thought about, I mean, I wouldn't have done it, right? And wouldn't have had a reason to do it, but like really can take pride in like, man, this is really dope, man. This is a beautiful piece. That we came up with.
Yeah. And then you made me think about how one, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and you talked about therapy. Therapy is something that I talk about openly
Yeah,
on this platform, and I appreciate you saying it. That through therapy, you ended up being able to diagnose or had it diagnosed unbeknownst to you that part of who you are and
yeah,
your makeup and how you process is through creativity.
yep,
And it's taken, like, a lot of times people look at a diagnosis and think that is a detriment, but really
yeah,
it's not, right? You were able to what's the word? Take something that could be a negative and turn it into a positive. Like,
Yeah.
and I always say, like, that's my unofficial tagline. You know, I take negatives and turn them into positives. And
Yeah.
what I loved from what you said was that through that experience, you were able to realize why you end up focusing in on other things and how you end up focusing in, and you ended up able to maximize it to create not only a business that you can share with the world, but it's been something that you've been able to share with your family. I love seeing your projects. You know, I love seeing you have your kids involved in the projects,
Yeah.
and so I really want to say that um, um, being able to tap into something that might be a negative isn't always a
Mhm.
negative, right? If you
Yep.
learn how to channel it the right way,
Yeah.
and you can use it to influence and to help out other individuals, and that's what I see you doing with your creation.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, and just to hit on that, I mean, I was, and one of the for yeah, really once I kind of joked about kind of us talking on this sort of semi-professional. Right, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'll say for the public here as well. I mean, you are a year and a half. I don't know how much younger you are than me, but I mean, I admire and have always admired you as well. And so we've had numerous conversations about like what does it mean to raise young black boys, right? What does it mean to raise gentle young black boys, right? Um, or black boys and as they try to figure themselves out and navigate. And one of the things, and so it's been cool. So as my son has helped me on various projects, I've been able to kind of use different analogies. And so one of the things that I shared with him recently was with regard to tools, right? And so it's like, hey, you have different tools to do different things, right? So we were working on something. So it's like, I was working on this big project. I needed help. Little boy was a godsend, right? Um, and so he was using a drill to do something. And so what I told him was like, hey, you can do that with a screwdriver or you can do that with a drill, right? And so you have different tools for different purposes. That drill is going to be much quicker, right? But there's certain times when you need that screwdriver so that you can tweak things a little bit differently, right? And so just kind of that life application piece of, how do you use different tools to, for different purposes?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And I think in the same conversation I was saying it was too funny because that same week I ended up having a conversation with one of my sons as well, and just being able to, like, I think for this generation of kids, it's going to be to help them to be able to comprehend and to think critically, right? And to say, hey, like you said, like, you can use this drill, but is it the most effective? Is it the appropriate thing to use
Yeah,
right now? Is it something that, is there another tool in your toolbox that you can go to? And that's one of the things that I've been able to take away for me going through therapy. I've added so many more tools to my tool shed that I used to tell everybody I only had two options. It was either fight or flight with me. That was
yeah,
it. And I elevated to fight very quickly. But then, through therapy, I was able to open up and learn how to, and thankfully to my wife too, right, to realize that I had a lot more options on the table. And it ended up being such a helpful tool unexpectedly because it spilled over, not just for me personally, not just for my relationship, but it spilled over into my relationships, into my business, and how I interact with other individuals across the board. So
yeah.
sometimes it's those things you weren't even intended on getting that ends up turning out to be, super beneficial in other ways. And that's how
Absolutely.
I look at what you were describing about with getting that diagnosis, but being able to channel it in a way that shows your beauty and the creativity that you got going on, flowing through that mind of yours. All right. But I got to ask you this. One, for those of you guys who don't know out there, so I like to use this backdrop behind me a lot. And no, it's not a virtual. This is a live backdrop behind me. And EJ was the one who actually designed this piece. I don't like to give him any credit for it. I like to tell people when they come to my house and they look at my library that I did it. So, and once I get all of the kudos and say, wow, Tyrell, you're so great, you put everything together so nicely, then I managed to squeeze in that I really didn't do it and that this guy over here did it. But this piece behind us, I like to say, is a 101, and it's a illustration of the type of work that he does do. And I've worked with this guy on several different projects. He's been working on projects for me, I think, and every property I own, I got some work from EJ in there, all the way up to New York, right?
Yeah,
And the one thing about him is that if you, like he just said when he was describing, when you were describing Angels, like, you know, I need this, and you'd be like, I don't know if I could do that, but okay, I'll figure it out. Right, and I love that about he's gonna take the time. He's really meticulous with getting the numbers correctly. A couple of times I wanted to go ahead and hit him because he asked me like 10,000 times to remeasure and remeasure and remeasure. So, you know, but to see the final product of what you always end up coming out with EJ is really amazing. And I like that you focus on functional art, right? Because like you're able to take spaces, whether that is doing your concealment for firearms. You
yeah,
know, those were some projects that I always like watching with you as well, right? And you can take functional. You'll take a piece of art that you think is just a regular piece of art, but
yeah,
behind that you got a whole concealment chamber for firearms that'll
yeah.
be out of the way from everybody else that doesn't even know that it's there.
Yeah.
So, so where do you go to get your creativity, and how do you keep that creativity flowing throughout your projects and what it is that you're working on?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. It's interesting. I mean, it's a few different places. I think in terms of where I am and where I desire to go is in a place of where I desire to be is in a place where I can create something, and because I've created something, people want it because, oh, well, EJ created it, so E2 creation, this is an E2 creations thing, and because it's a thing from him, then this is what I want, which is fine, and so that's sort of one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is like, hey, I need and want this thing, and this is the design, this is the color, and this is the thing, and this is the whatever. And as a result of that, it's really a lot of it is sort of driven by what the customer wants. Hey, I need a table and I want it to be this color, right? And so I say, okay, well, if that's the case, well, what do you want it to look like? And so they may, go to a Pinterest, or they may, send me different sort of inspiration pictures, and I can then sort of take from there and then recreate something that is specific and unique to the space. So in terms of kind of where I get the creativity, it may be something I've seen somewhere. I mean, I love looking at like architecture to get ideas from like the different
Mm.
places. If I'm in a different country, a different state, a different city, like I'm inspired by like the downtown areas, weirdly enough. Like it's kind of like I'm looking at things and like I'm inspired, and I don't know if it materializes, I don't know what it may materialize into, but I'm inspired by looking at these things, right? Whether it be the colors. I remember being in Puerto Rico on a trip, and like the last day I had like a couple hours by myself, and I was walking around like, man, it's just like I'm looking at the cobblestone, I'm looking at the
Mhm.
buildings, I'm looking at the colors, I'm looking at the backdrop of the ocean, so it's just kind of those things um is where I get inspiration from. And I'm at the place now where I can kind of like, kind of based on what somebody is initially describing, I can envision how
Mm.
the project will look. And so now the inspiration is just making sure that like what I envision is in alignment with what they want, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Um, which is I think which is expansion, which is progression, right? Because before it was like, hey Tyrell, if you want that bookshelf, you got to send me that a picture of bookshelf you want, then I'll make my version of that.
Yep.
Now it is um hey, that's what you want. Bet. Like the wheels are turning, right? I'm already figuring out like how it'll look. And now this, I mean, the thing that's just amazing now is like to envision something and then to finish it. It's like, man, it's just like it's crazy, man. It's like it's crazy to think of something and then bring it to fruition and it be what you thought it come out the way in which you thought it would.
I like it. I like it. And it's like I suck at building, so I can't build anything. So I asked EJ to build everything for me because I can't build it. But I probably feel that same way with the creation of the books, and now with the kids
Yeah.
illustration books. It's just like to have a thought and to see it fully expand to its full capacity, how you initially envisioned it, is really amazing. And
Yeah.
then it's just like there's certain parts of life where you have that creative flow, and I feel like I'm in a creative space. I feel like you're in a creative space, which is really dope because oftentimes um a lot of people are still stuck in survival mode where
Yep.
I got to do what I have to do to take care of what I need to take care of.
Yeah.
But then there's another space, there's this creative space that you can get into where you're not immediately engulfed in survival mode anymore. And it's like, I got room for opportunities, I got room for expansion, which is going to lead me to my next question for you.
Before you go to the next, can I just add something to that? To
Yes,
that?
yes, yes.
Yeah, something that's really cool. I mean, and once again, kind of like just that I've picked up in the space that I've in is real, and it's from talking to my pastor, Pastor Mari Hughes from New Life Church in Laurel. If anybody's listening, but he reached out, maybe he and I probably reached out like maybe about a year and a half ago, and was really kind of talking about my work, and so in his approach to ministry is really through this creative space as well, right? And so I think and recently he invited me to this. It was a local church who was having this conference um, for creatives, right? And it was writers and it was singers and I mean people, right? And so even to your point, I think the I think the beauty of creativity is that it can live in whatever space, whatever arena, right? It's not just I'm creative
Mhm.
and I paint, I'm creative and I build, but like I'm creative and I wrote this book. And beyond that, like I had the vision, for this kids book, that we were talking about, right? So the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
chapter, like, and so then each chapter being its thing, right? So how do you then kind of microdose that thing for
Mm,
for other generations? I mean, for younger generations, I was in church on Sunday. I was thinking about um, it's kind of what it means to curate something, right?
yes.
And so I think that's kind of this creative thing. And we oftentimes think about kind of curating something in the museum, but like even for yourself, like curating this thing, like the back community, right? So I'm
Yeah.
sitting down, I have a vision for what this thing is, and then I'm kind of curating and I'm moving the pieces. And that's, I mean, that's the creative spirit, man. To
Mm.
be able to do those things. And I think that once again, in any profession, any arena, anything, I think creativity is what kind of adds that next level of um oomph to it, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's kind of hard to get in the creative space, right? Where let's say if you're still in survival mode and you're thinking
Yeah,
about how am I going to pay my bills, how am I going to take care of this for my kids, how am I going to get this stuff done, and when you constantly have that weighing on your shoulders, it doesn't really allow you to be as creative, right?
yeah,
Because it's kind of like I got to focus on the necessities in front of me. But
yeah,
when you're able to get to that creative space, man, it's just like people can really see your brilliance and be like, well, wow, it was like, I always had these ideas. I just didn't have the space within my own personal life to go ahead and create it. But when you get it and you realize how profitable those things can be, like those ideas or projects you've been sitting on. So,
yeah,
they can be very profitable. So I always try to tell everybody is just like, man, when you start to carve out that space to get to what truly drives you, what truly you have passion for,
yep,
man, there's nothing like that merger or that collaboration within yourself. Like I'm doing what I'm passionate about, I'm
mhm,
doing what God has gifted me to do, and
yep,
I'm able to be of service to others. And it's
absolutely,
like, be like, man, this is great. It's like you can monetize what it is that you love to do, or
yeah,
when you're in the right space and you have the creative mind to go ahead and do that.
yep,
Yep. But I had to ask you about a season of pivot, right? So the theme of season six for us is expanding your range.
yep,
And it is a continuation of a conversation we had earlier this year with a bunch of men up in Albany, New York. Every year I do this conference with Markia Robinson and others up in Albany called the Makings of a Man Conference.
right,
And the theme this year was expanding your range.
yep,
So, I want to ask you, um, how have you expanded your own range
Mhm.
in this new season of entrepreneurship for you? Because I know you went from working in DC life to now being into, E2 Creations, E2 Solutions. How have you been able to expand your range, and where do you see it fully going to as you continue to develop?
Yeah, man, I think so two parts come to mind. I mean, I think the piece of like the necessity piece that you kind of spoke to, right? Like I need to take care of X, Y, Z, I need to do this, that, and the third. I think, I mean, it's really it's a tipping point, right?
Mm.
And so that tipping point of like, what are my what do I need to consider, right? And so I was talking to a soccer dad the other day, man, cool dude, man, like, and he dropped two things. I said, give me one. I gotta put on my phone, all right. And he said, when you come to transition, there's typically two things you're dealing with, and it's duration, and it's the second deviation problem. And so I said, man, you gotta explain it. So like duration is like how long am I going to be in this space? And then the second deviation problem is like, well, what's going to happen next? Like, what am I going to do next, right? Um, and so to that point, I think, and so when you're on that tipping point, it's like, am I going to tip back to
Mm.
destructive ways of doing things? And so destructive ways of doing things is relative, right? So I can go back to this 9 to 5 and deal with this stuff I don't want to deal. Am I gonna go back to hustling? Am I gonna rob somebody because I got to pay these bills? The other side of the tipping point is this opportunity to do something new? Is this opportunity to kind of lean into something different, whether it is something brand new, whether it is sort of expanding what you're already doing, whether it is revisiting what you're already doing. I think for me, the blessing has been like it was able to, I was able to tip it into the direction of like expanding and doing something creative. I remember thinking back during during the pandemic, I was like, man, this would be great if I could if I could make whatever money I make and I'm home and I'm making stuff, right? It's like, well, I mean, obviously I'm home, but I have work that I need to be doing
Yep.
as a manager, and have kids that look, my daughter was like one at the time, right? And so it's like, I got the luxury of like kind of sitting around and thinking and building. And so I think this space, man, I mean, this kind of forcing of like kind of being fired. I mean, I guess I feel more comfortable saying that now. And so and the confirmation comes from like me telling people that people say good. It's like, man, I just told you I got fired. They're like, great, that's a beautiful thing. But these
Yep.
people like like an angel, like my cut, like people who it's a space you got. There's a space you have to be in order to see it as a good thing, right? Like because man, I got other people who are close to me who care for me and love me. It's like, man, dang, bro, like what we gonna do? Other people like, man, that's beautiful, that's great, man, that's dope, man. I'm so happy for you, right? And so, but once again, like that's that tipping point to this space of creativity where it's like, all right, I sat down, man. Like I had Friday on a Friday, I drove home Friday. Like, all right, God, what we gonna do?
Yep.
Like, I don't got time. I can't. I don't got time to sulk. Like I mean, I had highs and lows, right? But it's like, man, what am I gonna do? Like I need to figure something out, right? Severance going to run out at this point. Like, man, what's my skill set? Right up, man. God has blessed me with like, other like people, like random conversations I had with people. And I was able to go back. I'm like, all right, man. Like, I need to meet with you, man. I need to meet with you to figure out, this is what's going on. I need to be vulnerable. I need to be honest about kind of what I was feeling, what my concerns were. And that thing, and being able to have those conversations. Shout out to Chuny, man, down the street, man, who like I said, man, I said, man, and I said, Chun, let me take you to lunch because I just want to pick your brain. He said, man, don't take me to lunch, man. Come meet me here on Wednesday. And we met every Wednesday for like 2 or 3 months, right? And it's like you sitting down, he working on his stuff, and he just throwing stuff out in the atmosphere, right? And I'm sitting there with my laptop and my notebook because I wanted to force myself to be, serious in terms of like, man, what are you gonna do? And so in doing that, man, I mean, and so then I think for me, that kind of forced me to be in a creative space. And then once you're in a creative space, it's like
Mhm.
anything, right? It's um when you have the ability to dream, you know what I mean? Like when you have the ability to dream, right? And that ability to say, all right, man, it's a blank canvas, right? What am I gonna do? I don't like it ain't, I'm not, if I gotta go get if I gotta go get a traditional job, I'll do that, right? But like when you're in a space like and whatever that space is, and shout out to my wife as well for for like but I know it was, scary for her too, but like, but giving me that, that space to like figure it out right now. Obviously, I had to communicate stuff to her. It's like, this is my
Yep.
plan. This is what I'm doing. Financially, this is where we are. Um, but it led to me really being serious about how I'm structuring my, like, becoming serious. Like, not that I figured it out, but like how am I structuring this business, what accounts I need to have. I went and bought a work van for, for one purpose, and I've been using that solely for, primarily for my, for my woodworking piece. I got my first contract with, with DC government to make phone cabinets for schools and things that like never could have. I mean, like in January, I couldn't have imagined.
Mhm.
In January of 25, I couldn't have imagined like one being fired, in a month, but then like 9 months in, like building stuff and having this and doing this and like, I mean, like partnering with, another mentor of mine to do these sort of large scale projects, man, things that I like literally dreamt of, right? Um, I may have told you, and a couple of weeks ago, like, I remember, I remember at one point. I mean, this last job I had, man, really, I'm not gonna say the job. My man just hated it, right? I mean, Monday, I hated Mondays because Monday, I would go to work and I would literally, man, I would get to work and I would be in meetings back to back to back to back to back until 5 o'clock, right?
Mm.
Dumbest thing. And a couple of Mondays ago, I got up, we got ready, took my kids to school, went to the gym, worked out for an hour. And I walked out of the gym. I said, all right, I made these two signs for the store. That's, it's a restaurant that's around the corner, black owned restaurant here in Crofton. And then I got to go load my van up and meet Lawrence from Heavy Paper Co. down at the convention center in DC for the Congressional Black Caucus event because he got brought on to do a job and then he expanded and he brought me in. So then we 50-50 on this job, right? And so I said, man, this is something like I dreamt of this at some point. Like I was in my office, like my DC government
Yep.
job office, sitting there like, man, if if I had the ability to
Mm.
create all that, I would. And I said, man, I just had to thank God, right? Like it was like, it was so pivotal, man. Like just from the standpoint of like just being able to like, and I've been using the word, curate, like to curate my, like
Yes.
I was in control of my day, right? I did the things I needed and wanted to do that day. I did, and not for lack of me. I mean, because I made money, right? And so, I mean, and to be in that space is just like it is it's amazing.
Life changing.
It's like, I mean, it's amazing. Not that it's all figured out, right? But to be in that space and then creatively to say, I need to do X, Y, and Z because the baby need to eat, the baby
Yep.
needs some shoes. I got to keep the light on, right? There've been opportunities. So like when you then walking, when you're seeking to be in alignment with God, then these opportunities present themselves. And so that's just where I've been, man. So I've just been, I mean, really, really bopping and basking in that joint, man. So it's been a dope thing, man.
And I know it, but I'm sure my audience doesn't. But how important or how significant has that relationship been with God during this season of pivot as you're expanding your range? How important has that foundation been in your work, in your business, and your family?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's, you kind of find yourself in a space of you're on the tipping point, right? I'm on that. I'm at that point, and so I can, and my background isn't such where I ever sold drugs or ever did anything, So it wasn't tipping to that, but it's like let me go back to a 9 to 5 thing, and other sort of piece for that. I mean, I've with all the degrees and all the experience I've had, I mean, it's been times where I've like applied for jobs and gotten rejected, right? And so I think in that space, I mean, I really like it was probably, man, 3 or 4 days out the week, man. I would just walk, man. I would go walk. I mean, it could be drizzling some days, it would be 30 degrees some days, and I would just walk, man. Sometimes listen to something, sometimes not, right? Like, all right, God, like, and just open, man. Like just open. Um, thinking through stuff. I would see something. I would be replaying conversations, um, thinking about different opportunities, man. Just think, and also having, being surrounded by people like you, man, like people like you, like Navar, just people who were just connected to, man, your network, and just from the standpoint of like just being inspired by what people are doing, right? Whatever that thing is, right? Not that you being inspired, not that you aspire to do the exact same
Yeah.
thing, right? But just like the belief of like, man, like this is my network, these are the people I'm connected to, and everything's gonna be okay. And so just that relationship with God, man, of like just praying about it, man, and being like, and I think for the, for one of the and 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 so for one of the first times, really saying, all right, God, like you gotta
I
figure this.
surrender. I
You
surrender.
hey Shane, you got to figure this out because I ain't, it's you got to figure this out, right? And not being, not being blasphemous, not being, not being cavalier, but it's like, because I don't know, like I don't know what's going, like I don't know what's going to happen, right? Um, I trust that it'll work out. I believe it's going to work out. Thank you for the resources that are there. That if I need to tap into it, I can. Um, and the other pieces, it was figuring out how to navigate the lonely space, right?
Mm.
Um, and to be candid, I mean, I think, I had to, um, so two, important people that I kind of, that I had to like navigate with or figure out was like my wife and dad, right? Um, I would tell my, my dad, and I told my dad, and he's like, all right, man, yeah, okay. And I'm like, you apply for any jobs? I'm like, I said, yeah, but this one I'm planning on doing these. The van and the
Yeah.
woodworking. That's cool. You apply for any jobs? I said, man. I said, and I didn't want to like, and he was texting this to me, so I mean, I didn't want to respond. And my dad just learned how to text probably a year ago, and so I didn't want to, I don't want to say anything that sounded like sarcastic, but
Yeah.
so so I was looking at a van, for the for the company, and I said, Pops, can you just meet me to look at this van with me? And so we sat outside for probably about an hour, so we were talking. I said, Pops, I said, man, I'm not going back to what I left, man. Like if I'm not going back to what I left, right? And
That's
so if there's another opportunity, like cool, I'm not. But if I can replicate what I was making, doing something that I enjoy, like that's what I'm gonna do. But I had to understand and appreciate. For him, it was not wasn't from a place of judgment. It was like, well, if you don't got it, I got to make sure you got it, right? So if you don't have the thing that you need as your father, I need to make sure you have it. And so, but I had to let him know yeah, if I need it, I'll get it, but I'm good. Like these are my contingency plans, right? And even for my wife, like my wife want to know, like, hey, bro, that's cool. I just want to make sure the mortgage won't get paid. I want
yeah.
to make sure that like this trip we got planned for Cancun in 2 months, like
Still on.
is it still on? Do we need to cancel it? And for me, and another sort of piece of vulnerability, like I don't tell my wife, man, but I don't really like to, I mean, I don't really like to talk about stuff, right? Like I just want like head down, I'm gonna make it happen, like whatever, right? But I had to like I had to grow on my communication. I had to grow on
Mm.
like figuring out, man, like, all right, man, this is what I'm doing. This is my plan. What do you need to see that'll make you feel better about the direction we're going into for right now? So that was a learning piece for me. I mean, as a husband, as the, as the head of the house, and not from a place of domineering, but as that cornerstone within the house that like when all else fails, like bro, you got to make it happen. And so it's been interesting, man. And so I mean, kind of going back to that faith piece, I mean, just like leaning on God, like, all right, God, like you got to figure this out, man. Like,
Mm.
if you got to figure it out, if I'm doing something wrong, like help me figure it out so I'm not doing it. But otherwise, like I didn't get fired because I did something. I didn't get, there wasn't something where I was like, you know, doing something dumb at work and got fired. It was just, they chose to go in a different direction, which is their prerogative. And so like now that I'm in this space, like why and what do I need to do? And so I mean that's just been that's really been a beauty of like these different pieces, man, these different building blocks, man. I mean, this conversation, I remember years ago, like I kind of joking myself, like, man, really had me. Why ain't he had me on the show? Like, what I'm saying? But like, I mean, just as like a, like as a joke, but I'm like, I do cool stuff. Um, but the time was, I mean, because we were talking the other week, and we just, and for those who don't know, I mean, I don't know, I don't talk to. It's so we don't. Rel and I don't, the host of this show. He and I don't talk about any. I don't know why we talk, but we talk. I don't. I don't even know where it came from. But we started like facing each other, like FaceTiming each other randomly, like
Nothing but insults.
huh?
Nothing but insults. And
Nothing but insults. Like
yes.
not even like, hey, we're best friends. We're checking this, like, hey, man, what you doing? You sucker. You know what I mean? And but like, I live for those calls, man. It's on one of these sort of banterings. I was like, yeah, I think, in real, it doesn't. Yeah, I really, man, I really appreciate him. Let me say that again because I don't tell you that enough. Um, but yeah, but you actually start provoking questions, and we kind of, I don't even know what you asked, and I think I had just tapped in some different programs, some different software, like a building program and like a design program and something else. Now, a design program and then a laser cutter at the shop. And I was like, man, I'm doing this. I'm excited. You're like, man, it's time for you to come on the show now. I'm like, okay, well, so, but yeah, so, but I look at these different things as like just different opportunities, right? So once again, like, what do you call it?
Expanding your range.
Expanding your range? Like, I wouldn't have done, I would not have done this a year ago. I wouldn't. There would not have been a need to reshift and refocus my business because it was just like you want a project, I'm gonna do it, and then with the money I get from that, I'm gonna get a tattoo, I'm gonna buy a gun, right? Whereas like nah, like I need to like bells and whistles this joint because I gotta pay my mortgage with this, right? Like I gotta like that trip we had. Like I mean, it was important to me for like for like probably a month went by. My son was like. And I was picking him up, from African like gym clothes. He's like, man, what are you doing today? I said, I went to the gym and I was playing pickleball. He was like, "No, do you
Yo,
work?
kids can be the worst. You know
Hey,
what? Yeah.
hey,
What are
the
you
worst,
doing?
bro. I mean, like, yeah, he was like, Daddy, do you work? I'm like, yeah, and I had explained to him kind of what was going on there. And then the other then the other week, my daughter, God bless her soul, and there's no offense to anybody, she said, Dad, you're like a janitor. Like what? But but in her school, she see people,
Yeah.
like, they're fixing stuff, right? So
Yep.
like she sees me like fixing things and walking around with, kind of doing this stuff. So for her, it's like, oh, which is cool, man. But yeah, but just these are built these conversations are building blocks, these opportunities, man. Like, and I've and once again, I'll keep going back to that creative space because now I appreciate these things a little bit different.
Yes.
I appreciate these conversations a little bit differently, right? Like we were talking about like like the big chop, like man, all right, what else you want to do with it?
Yep.
You got this joint, man. What else you want to do with the book, man? What you want to do with this chapter, man? And so I love just to be in a space with other folks, man. And really, I think I'm in a season of like iron sharpening iron, right? Like I
Yeah.
probably have like a handful of folks that like, and I mean like a legit like a handful of people who I'm in like constant communication with. I mean, obviously you're one of those folks, man, but like um just really building. And it's not even like and now it's like first nature. It's not even I need to call to ask about this, but like our conversations center around
Yep.
like, man, what you doing? And what you working on and what you focusing on. And I think, you and I probably in some of the space you kind of mentioned crazy, but like we're with the, the Just Care from Albany and the Black community and the big shop, like these things are now sort of interwoven into our lives, right? So now these things are a part of our existence. So, E2 Creations, me being a maker, man, it's like it's who I am, like it's who I am. Uh,
Mm.
my wife a couple of years ago, we had met this couple. She's like, man, I don't know why, man. I don't know, I got all, I don't know why he got all these tattoos all of a sudden. It's like, and what she said was, like that was my artistic expression, right? And so, yeah, I'm just in a space where I'm just like, I'm leaning into, um, man, being a creative, man. What
Mm.
that looks like, and in the next season it may change, but while I'm in this season, man, that's what I'm rolling in.
Listen, and it goes back to like I said, I can say this because I know how important and how influential that relationship is with God, right? But it's so dope to um position yourself in a space to be used, right?
Yeah,
But like I said, to allow your gift to make space to help others while at the same time monetizing your gift
Yep.
to take care of you and your own aspirations.
Absolutely.
It's so dope. But being able to, and I'm going to say this to everyone out there, also to EJ and myself on a call right now, and say like, to be able to walk in spaces that are uncomfortable in order to get to the other side of it. Because obviously, doing something new requires a level of uncomfort because it's going to be going into a space that you might not know all of the answers to. You might not know how it's going to turn out. But sometimes God closes doors so that way He can narrowly put you on the track and the focus where He wants you to be. And there's nothing better than to be doing fulfilling work, and at the same time, like I said, living out your dreams while you're doing it. And I think that, you know, right now, let's say we're in the middle of a government shutdown. That government shutdown affects me, right? But you'll say, well, I'm so thankful I have space and opportunities and places to still dive into and to work and create and ensure that, you know, my family has what it is that they need. And my relationship with God has centered me throughout that entire time, or this entire time. And it's just like it's a part of who we are now. And it's just like, rather than going into panic mode or saying, "Oh, how I'm gonna do this," is just like, "Okay, God, I see what you're doing. I'm not gonna interfere. I'm gonna let you work what you're working because I remember the amount of times that you've already shown up for me when
Absolutely.
I didn't know how this was going to work out or how this was going to go, and I've seen how it's gone. So why would I panic now, right? But for everyone out there listening, you know, you got to ask yourself, what season are you in? And if you feel like it's a season of pivot, it's a season of change, at some point you're going to have to make a decision to not only gamble on yourself, but to put your, as my pastor likes to say, put your faith in your feet, right? And go, right? Say, hey, you can't just be sitting on something. So in this season of pivot, for everybody that's out there, you know, I like to challenge you all to say, hey, I want to live the life that I envision for me and my family, and I'm willing to make the changes to get to where I need to be. Because oftentimes people want what you have, but they don't want to go through the journey of understanding how you got to where you are. So I just want to leave everybody with some encouraging words to say that, you know, in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes, it says it's a season for everything. So you got to determine what season you're in by being observant to what's going on around you. And if you're observant to what's going on around you, sometimes it might be, you know, saying, hey, it's time for you to pivot. It's time for you to change or to expand your range. EJ, I think that you are a living, breathing testament of what it means to expand your range. And I am thankful to watch you work and to say that in this season, right, you've gracefully taken on this pivot. And I'm so happy to see that it's working out for you, right? You're opening up doors and opportunities. Like you said, back in January, you wouldn't even thought that, you know, how would I do that? But you're doing it. And I'm sure that is rooted in faith, is rooted in love. I'm glad that you got the support at home to do what it is that you want to do. And bro, I wish you continued success on in everything that you're doing thus far. But I think for you, you're just scratching the surface of what you're really going to be getting in terms of full expansion. So thank you for one, trusting in God. Thank you two for trusting in yourself. And then three, you know what I mean, uh, finding a great support group among the people who you trust to be able to give you the space to do the cooking that you're doing right now. Because bro, you out here cooking. I love the work and the projects that you got going on, and I want to wish you continued success as you move forward.
Appreciate it, man. Same to you as well, man. Like, you know, I don't know, but I feel like I said the other day, man, I remember you bopping around campus, you know, with your cornrows, man, and you know, 20-ish, 20, I don't know how long ago, man. But yeah, man, you doing great work, man. I certainly appreciate you,
Was
man.
that when you and Eric, and you and Jessica shot me with the water gun?
Right, so yeah, it was
See, yeah,
like
disrespectful.
fucking back then. Um, But nah, man, it's dope, man. I think it's a beautiful thing, man. You are, man, you're an awesome dude, man. I think I'm honored to, for the chapter we came through and all the great things that, all the great things that, folks, not just from our school, but certainly our chapter, man, are doing, man. Like doctors and principals and authors and I mean folks doing all kind of stuff, man. And so um you and I both come from from that lineage, man. And so I mean I love what you're doing, man. You are a dope dude, man. I mean I give you a hard time all the time, man, just to humble you, man, because you so dope at what you do, man. And really I mean man, but once again I'll say just for the folks, man, you've been a friend and a brother, man. I mean, I mean, it's been times where I'm like, hey, bro, like I need to like, I need to rap, I mean, I got the stuff going on, man, and I don't care what you're doing, man. You will create time for that, man. I appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me, man. I think that has helped to solidify our relationship, man. So I appreciate you, man. I love what you're doing, man. I'm, here to support and here to break you down, man, and build you back up, man. I'm glad you finally had me on your show, man. And the yeah, and just your curation of this, right? Because I mean, I think the any time before, where I'm now, it wouldn't have made sense, right? But definitely, I mean, I think just the all things have aligned to where it's made sense. I mean, this place, kind of, expanding my range, man, and just learning, man, and figuring it out, right? I don't have it figured out, but like just kind of figuring out today, man, and just yeah, just grateful, man. Just blessed, man. Appreciate those who I'm connected to, man, who hold me accountable, man, and ask the questions of like, man, what you doing and what you want to do next. So appreciate that, man. I don't know if we over time, man, but
No, I just want to put this on the record before I let you go that, I'm going to give you a new project, and, I want to be at the forefront of all your long list of projects that you got going on, so the world, you guys hear me saying, so when I send EJ my project, I better not be, what I mean, months down the line on his project list, because, I'm gonna have to go ahead and boom, 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 hit him with the something. But
but
no, I ain't even letting you speak. EJ, bro, like I said, man, I love you as a person. I admire what it is that you do for so many others. I admire your relationship with God. I admire what you're doing to make sure that your children's experience is what it should be for them.
yeah,
Like oftentimes as parents, we always compare how we came up to how our kids are coming up, and you and I talk about this a lot. Like we're curating experiences for our kids that are geared toward them and their
yeah.
experiences. So I love what you're doing, bro. Thank you for finally coming on the back community. I look forward to getting your story out to the masses. And man, we're gonna get back to it. I'll play catch up with you next time.
All right, bro.
Peace.
Holla.
It's for all of the trials and tribulations. Just look at my mom made it. I said I was gonna change it, I did. And I know that we all destined for greatness. No matter what you've been facing, it's a marathon, no, it's not a sprint. It's for all of the trials and tribulations. Just look at my mom made it. I said I was gonna change it, I did. And I know that we all destined for greatness. No matter what you've been